I'm gonna kill this lo-fi girl here in just a second. I'm just waiting to see if anyone else is gonna show up with us. If not, we'll get started. I know there's a lot of different events going on right now between One Hive, the DJs, and this, so it might be a low attendance call, but doesn't mean we still can't have a good call going on here. So this sounds like the break in the song I was looking for to kick her off the stage too and make it smooth. We'll see. Here we go. Here goes nothing. All right. I feel like I'm getting a little better at that every time I do it. The GM fam, welcome to the operations office hours on a Friday. I hope everyone's had a really good week. I know I have gotten a lot of stuff done around here. These are supposed to be a bi-weekly meeting for the DAO for everyone from our operations team to just chat with the rest of the community about what's going on in ops world. We may have some things prepped for future calls, but I kind of like an agendaless operations hours, kind of more the AMA style, like the Wednesday lunch AMA. So I definitely want to leave it open for Q&A. If people want to ask questions, type them into the stage chat. We don't really have a Zoom today yet because we don't have any prepped slides, but maybe if we do a screen share, we'll get that going and running. I do want to take a little bit of time to introduce our two newest operations assistants who we hired at the beginning of this week. Never Was and Ron. They've been going through training this first week and getting integrated into all of our systems for testing and for triage, and been doing a great job as well, and leading up some of their own individual independent projects that are also now housed underneath operations. So I'll probably bring those guys up on stage as well as Shifty if he's out there in the audience, so we can have our ops crew chatting with us. Ron and Never Was, if you want to raise your hands whenever, we'll bring you up. I know most of the people on this call are familiar with you guys from your passion and interaction with all of the different proposals and projects that you've been involved with. So I don't know if we necessarily need to do introductions, but yeah. What's going on, Shifty?
Much, man. Just got a triage ticket that came in. Take a look at that.
Nice. Happy to talk about our triage process. I've been a little bit inside the teaching lecture mode, so I can continue doing that kind of thing if we want to talk about what ops does and they're in triage, or I don't know. We feel like I do a little bit of that in unsolved user problems too. So, what do you guys want to chat about here? Does anyone have anything in particular we'd like to chat about? Let me get Never Was up on stage here and Ron. Sweet. GM boys?
GMO.
So, yeah, you guys have just started to get your feet wet, so maybe would one of you want to take a stab at what's been going on so far this week? I don't want to start at the very beginning of time and do another lecture at the top if I don't have to, but I can as well.
If you want to do a basics on it, then I could fill in for what's going on this week so far.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. So those that are new to the triage process or are not familiar with it, this is something that's been developed over a matter of almost a year now, at well, maybe a year and a half if you include the formation of it, from centralized ShapeShift over here through to the DAO. And it's a means of making sure that we only have the right escalated people looking at any individual problem at the right time to hopefully speed up velocity of engineers work and not create so much context switching, and also not have a whole bunch of engineers working late at night on things without, all of the information that they need to know on hand and knowing that it actually is a problem they need to be working on. So this is kind of a multi-tiered process that has lots of different mitigation steps or avenues for us to find resolutions before we have to pass something all the way on to an on-call engineer or someone to deal with it as if our hair was on fire, like our hair was on fire problem. And we have different tiers of priority down of how we can um, rank these issues that come into us, and there's a protocol and process that starts with support agents and the Zendesk, moves through into the Discord here with either a support box that GK can set up with an individual who might be having an issue, and they can get one-on-one correspondence with support agents and or ops people. There's also the report bugs channel, and then all of those are kind of the early versions of people who haven't invested much time or energy or interest into the DAO process, and we're not going to try and shove that down their throats. So if anyone comes in with those or comes into general, that's where we kind of try and process those people. If you are a more passionate DAO community member and happen to be on this call, the process that we ask that goes a little step further is this channel called Report Issues. It is a integration with a Fox form that has a whole bunch of questions that it asks you about the issue that you're going to report. We ask that before you use that you make sure that you can recreate it. And inside the Report Issues channel, there's a big blurb at the top that's got some troubleshooting, simple IT, have you turned it on and off again type questions that are always really good to try and practice beforehand, because you never know when there might be in a bad state or a simple user error. So if you can follow through those and you're still seeing your issue, we ask that you put it into the Report Issues channel. And then once you've answered all of those questions, including recreation steps, that gets passed on into the triage channel where operations is doing a lot of the dirty work in recreating and assessing priority and maybe all of the triage symptoms of who does this affect? Does this affect assets? Who do we need to attack next? How can we resolve this through different troubleshooting steps? Those kind of things. And then the next pipeline or the next piece in that pipeline would be if it is a problem that does need to get addressed immediately, there's a protocol for us escalating this to prod issues to get someone to look at it as if our hair was on fire so we can fix it right away. And then if it's not a hair was on fire situation, then we have things like tickets that we reach out to product to write, so engineering can address those whenever they have the time to pull bug tickets and fix. And hopefully this process will be something that as we evolve into a more open source code base, these bugs and tickets will become bounties that any individual in the community can maybe even find the bug, get the bounty, or fix the bug and get the bounty all in one fell swoop. So we've got ambitions and goals to get really open with this process, but we definitely want to bring the things that were successful from centralized ShapeShift here first. The detailed process of those questions really helps everything else further on down the line. Those steps for the recreation and things like that help our product team write tickets and our engineering team understand the context of the circumstances of the situation. And yeah, that's kind of it in a 5-minute elevator speech, a really, really, really tall building that goes all the way up, and we stopped on a couple of floors. Anyone else want
Hey
to add,
Tyler,
share to that?
I just
Yeah.
want I just wanted to add. So the triage ticket, even though the community members can go and follow the process that you were saying that is a little bit more advanced, when the support agents get the ticket and stuff like that, they usually once they feel out the situation and get a good understanding of it, they go in and fill it out and create a triage ticket as well. So we usually get all those issues routed through the triage ticket system so that we can, it's documented and searchable for, any issues going back with history and stuff like that. So that's all I would add.
Yeah, that's thanks for highlighting that. Never was. There's documenting it in this fashion with individual threads for each issue allows us to have kind of a greater scope, and then yeah, us as ops people, or maybe if you want to call them like first responders to these triage issues, we can do some due diligence and research on if this is a problem that has plagued us in the past, and if it has, we might have documentation on what tripped up the problem to reoccur, what the solution was, who the people who were responsible for fixing this were, who the people who were responsible for creating the bug were. There's lots of information that can help us really narrow down who we need to get involved, or if we can answer these problems on our own, that creating this massive repo of bugs in one central location helps out with.
Awesome.
50, do you guys have any things to add to that process, or maybe talk about what's been going on recently in the triage process, maybe this week or previous week?
I mean, for most of what's been going on, we've had one issue with Bitcoin Cash with Thorchain for inputs, and the rest of them have been small, one-off UTXO, or not UTXO, ERC20 token price issues. So not really anything too ground shattering, luckily this week.
Good. Yeah, because right now with ETH gas prices and Thor trades in general with Thor fees, if we had to go super deep into a lot of recreations, we'd be out a lot of test funds.
Absolutely.
Then there's the one that I ran into yesterday when going through the regression tests. I got stuck on step one, trying to create a mobile wallet with a web created account. So that it got stuck at the create a password step, and I was able to recreate that and then create a triage ticket for that one.
Yeah, great that you found a bug on step one of our regression test. It goes to show that we probably need to dust off the cobwebs and really see what else we might be missing that might be in an edge case in different places. But yeah, that bug specifically was created by us starting to remove specific endpoints of the reset password because of a previous kind of DDoS situation we were having of people being able to identify account if someone had an account or not. So we had to remove that, and now because of that, we have that bad user experience. So I believe in the thread itself, which you can find inside the triage channel if you guys would like to lurk and read about it. It sounds like you guys came up with a recommendation to either remove wallet generation from web or replace it with a link that brings people to mobile so they generate the native account there first instead and mitigates the issue.
Yeah, because I did end up creating a wallet on mobile, and then I was able to log in via the web page, and I didn't have any issues going that way with it. So
Nice. Glad it's not deeper than that.
me too.
We'll
I thought
see
it
what
was
bugs you find on step 2.
Wait till step 50. We'll see how many we get to. Is there a record for number of bugs found in going through that regression testing phase?
Ooh, I just got booted out of our old centralized Slack, so I would be able to dig and research. I don't know if there's any still centralized employees on the call right now that could. I mean, that's more than a project for us to find that number. I could do some digging maybe for our
Well,
next
I
ops
mean,
call
like,
and see what I can find.
is it greater than or less than 5? I guess.
Yeah, I've definitely had a couple of triage reports where it's just a full week of issues that have gone in the like 20 to 30 range issues reported. Those usually end up being days or weeks around like um, launches of features, and we're just finding some bugs on the other end of it, or in the weeks preceding features where we're trying to get everything squashed before it gets launched.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I suppose that'd be a perfect time for a lot of issues to pop up.
Um, I already asked the question: do we encounter issues every day, and how common are they?
I think there's been one
Shifty,
I would
every day this
say
week,
I
right?
would say there's definitely more of at least like 2 to 3 issues that pop up. And they could be as small as and minute as like uh, my token balance is off by like 0.00001, and it's just because it's not showing the full amount there.
yeah, one of the things maybe I could highlight on this, that without going too deep in the weeds, so someone cut me off if I start tangenting. But we are dealing with a whole bunch of extremely complex systems operating with each other, and there's a lot of edge cases that are created because of it. The amount of different blockchains that we interact with, the amount of different hardware wallets that we interact with, the kind of multi-views that we can do where you can plug multiple ones in there and cross back and forth with different services of ours. The trade functionality, the fact that it's doing multiple different back end trades. All of these have different sort of edge cases that can cause hangups or caching issues or kind of deep bugs that only really get found when we're out spelunking for all of the different circumstances and situations in which you could think about one could use our platform and services. So we definitely open a lot of can of worms in how we are trying to be as universal as we are with our services. Um, and due to that, and due to the limited bandwidth that we have on our engineering team currently, that always seems to lead us with a larger pile of work to do than a pile of workers to do it. And Meg's comments too about general markets going up and more activity in general creates more customers reporting more issues. We've also had loads of our bandwidth in previous extreme bull markets, services like CoinCap, and even just ShapeShift products in general can go under extreme strain from new users coming in. And even if someone like Pcoin is doing his job really well, or Toasty, individual marketing pushes can be something that can really bring in a whole bunch of new users that can put strain on our services and maybe potentially cause problems or bugs that need to be triaged or escalated all the way to prod issues.
Yeah, I mean, just as a point, like you're saying, Tyler, just think. I mean, within the last 60 days or maybe 90 days, we've had two airdrops, one large, really large airdrop, the next smaller one, LP tokens, the two instances of it, the first one and now the second one. We launched bonding. I mean, we've really done a lot very quickly, and this is all while you guys are transitioning from a centralized organization to a decentralized one, and taking up the banner of being a DAO and involving community and stuff. It's been an amazing accomplishment, even just to watch, but now to be a part of it and to see, a lot of the things that have to go on to keep the wheel turning. It's very it's intriguing to say the least.
Yeah, there's a lot of don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain going on here in ops. That's nice. It's similar to GK and the C mods too. That if we're doing our job good, or even especially the security workstream and Mr. Nerd here, if we're doing our job as best as possible, it's usually crickets. So yeah. So can we talk about fam? You guys got any questions about I don't know, we have our hands in governance. We have our hands in DAO counting. There's some really cool projects that I know Ron's had his kind of master control over as we are trying to get all of the different work streams budgets aligned for some dashboards and things like that. And I see that Darwin's in the audience. I don't know if he feels comfortable enough to talk at all on finance if we get deep into it, but I know he's been very helpful in advising on us as we've done that. But that's been something that we've been working on diligently in the background and should be able to reveal once it's all put together.
Yeah, maybe this will be a little bit of a tease for our next bi-weekly meeting that hopefully we'll have some sweet DAO counting alpha to share with the community and maybe do a little bit of a demo. I don't expect to have a full functioning product at that point, but I am working on building something for each of the work streams to be able to track and show in comparison to where their budgets are for each transaction that they're doing out of colony and where that is going, including transaction history and commentary as to what it's for. So should be exciting. Darwin has been a part of that as well, giving some sweet help with some data pulling in order to hopefully make that a little bit more automated in the long run. I don't foresee us integrating that at this first alpha stage, but I'm hoping eventually we can get there. So
Nice. Thanks for all of the work you've been doing on that. And yeah, happy that you're listening, Darwin. Hmm.
And if anyone has any suggestions after the alpha, feel free to message me or even just post in ideation, and we can talk about stuff that we can add or try to build in. If anyone is real Notion whiz, also reach out to me because that'll be a help in the long run as well. A call to action of sorts.
Yeah.
One of
Sorry. I would just add that and to the community members and everyone in the DAO, this is not something that we're looking to not share. It's going to be shared and available for people to view and look at and see. So it's not an internal thing at all. It's going to be definitely public facing for people to be able to review and take a look at and see, like John was saying, all the things that are happening. So I think that that might be something of interest to a lot of the members to know where Fox is being the investments and resources are being placed. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think product even has some ideas to pipe all of this Notion into the main homepage as well. So we'll try and bring as much transparency as possible to everyone and really create a cool way in which someone who's brand new to ShapeShift will be able to get not just a 1,000-foot view of what's going on from the DAO, but really true live analytics of how we're DAOing it and how successful that DAOing is going. So I'm super excited for all of the future things we can build on top of that when we have it. One of the things that maybe inside budgets and how we're spending, someone asked for a POAP. Unfortunately, no POAPs. I don't know if you heard on the governance call or any of the previous slides that I might have put in the last week or two of my own calls. The POAP process, we still have a backlog of artwork that we need to generate new artwork and GIFs for and present those to the POAP team before we will be in their good graces for us to make new POAPs. And we've got marketing and growth out there commissioning the artwork from a couple of our great artists out there and generating them themselves from the templates that we've had generated by our product team and the lovely art wizard Hoff. And so once we can get all of those made and generated for the coming soon artwork that we've previously had for POAPs, we'll be able to make new ones. But this is just we need to do good by the POAP family over there and do our best to be responsible POAP issuers. And so in the future, we've already got the bot plugged in and set up, but we'll need to have our artwork generated before we make those, so everything is going in the process. So we kind of had the cart before the horse for a little bit, where we were issuing all of these POAPs and thinking we can backfill, and we definitely pushed the POAP team to their limits. So we're just going to be kind and come clean and get that process going. So we're in a halt until we can get caught up there. So apologies for no POAPs. Well, I know everyone's anxious to get those back and going. So we'll get those back up soon. One of the things I just started to segue into about budgets that I'm definitely interested in hearing the community's thoughts on about how we need to solve this, because we don't have a short-term fix, but we don't have any maybe potential medium-term answers or long-term solutions for this yet. But is the question of test funds and how much those cost the DAO and what assets we're allowed to get those in, and how much it realistically takes to run a program that does the regression testing that we do. And I don't know, we can go all kinds of different avenues of if it's really worth it to be spending all of this, if moving over to testnet does all of these things. There's lots of great, juicy conversation here. But for context, to get both Never Was and Ron set up with just the preliminary test wallets so they could do a potential first recreation trade if they needed to. Each costing, it costs about $1,000 an ops agent to get all of their different devices the test funds that they need through acceptable gas prices to do those across the different devices. And my budget for all of October was $4K for test funds. And so that's something that I think, if gas prices don't get any better and keep getting worse, this could be something that needs to be addressed across multiple work streams for their own budgets for test funds, as well as an increase in this, or maybe a reprioritization of different solutions like testnets. I don't know. Shifty, you've been with ShapeShift for an extremely long time and seen the great sides and the bad sides of test funds. What are your thoughts on this whole experience as we cross over into the DAO, and what would you like to see out of this?
A great saying. Right before I started working at ShapeShift, they went on a group trip to Cancun, and they had T-shirts that said "Testnet, Smeshnet." And one of the things that, even though Testnet, Smeshnet, has its case, it also would save the DAO a ton of money, having us be able to test that with testnet funds instead of layer one. So I think it's in the DAO's best interest to get that enabled as soon as possible, especially for V2.
Really, I know there's some parts of this that in the earlier stages of development, if we had Ropstein turned on in the background, we would be able to do a lot of the tests that the engineers themselves are doing for cheap or free. But yeah, I do definitely align with that testnet, schmeshnet ethos, if that's what you can call it, and have seen my fair share of things that worked great in testnet, and assumptions were made that led us to not find bugs until we were already all in prod and on mainnet with things that were not easy light fixes.
Absolutely.
Anyone
So,
else
yeah.
got some? Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Ron, do you have any thoughts on test funds in this, or never was beyond that in this conversation, or also thrown out to the crowd too? This is going to be one that if gas prices keep going up, it'll start eating a bigger portion of ops as well as the rest of the work streams that have any sort of testing that needs to be done. So it definitely will be a question to be answered, as well as like right now, all of these test funds need to be requested in Fox. So all of these work streams, when these test funds need to be issued, they are issued on Colony. They are sent in Fox on XDI. They are then need to be bridged over to mainnet and incur all of the fees and losses of bridging and trading and mainnet fees for transfers as well. So that has implications on the Fox price on a much, much, much smaller scale, I guess I would say, with current volume, but also on just the kind of line in the sand we draw there where we say we're okay selling Fox for certain operations. And maybe that's more of a treasury diversification conversation than an operations conversation, but we are the ones that are on the first line of witnessing and having to spend money in times of need here.
What would it take to
Yeah.
get a test net meshnet set up? Like, is that a very involved process that takes a while? Like, would it be worthwhile starting to investigate that now, or getting a proposal together to get that started now, or is that something that can be thrown together quickly?
So to get something like maybe Ropstein up.
Any kind of test net. I guess I'm not familiar with how many different kinds there are, so.
I know we've got. I see Mr. Nerdhair, who's pretty aware of our code base. I'm not sure exactly if he would know where all of the things would need to be added, maybe an HD wallet and things like that, for us to get Ropstein compatible. But hey, Mr. Nerdhair.
Hey, so we'd need an unchained stack for the testnet. We'd need HD wallet support for the testnet, which exists for a few chains, but not all of them. And essentially, every testnet is a separate chain. So you get to copy most of the code. I mean, all the code, but the same moving pieces have to be fixed that would have to be done to add another chain. I hope that once we sort of hit our stride on adding new chains, we did ETH for WebV2 first, and then we did we're doing BTC and sort of working out. Going from 1 to 2 is harder than going from 2 to 3, and going from 2 to 3 is harder than adding even more after that. I know that Unchained has seen some work on Ropsten and maybe RankB. I think that this will arrive eventually. I don't know relative priorities that people have assigned to it, but anyway,
It just seems like a logical step forward, especially for
I
just.
totally agree. We should get testnet support in, and that our desired end state is the ability to run tests with testnet funds. I also think we should not eliminate the mainnet tests from our repertoire, but we could do those less frequently. Our ordinary first line regression tests, it would make a lot of sense to do those with test funds.
100% agree with you there on that last point.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be the case for having certain mainnet tests happen. Still, that's not going to go away. Never does in any type of production, I think, because before you want to launch it completely, you want to do as thorough as you can for the different applications. But I think, and I don't know, when the initial thoughts on testnet, smeshnet came about. I'm sure it was back in the time when testnets were pretty I'd say not infant, but in a different stage of time. I think there's been a lot of progression that's gone into that, and I think that there might be some surprises to the benefits now that weren't capable before, and maybe how the integrations work and stuff with the code base, and being that we're going to go open source and we're going to have the code base that can just be built and plugged in with, like Mr. Nerdhair was just saying, with Open Wallet and with other modules that we're going to build out for adding different chains and stuff. I think that makes it a lot more. I don't want to say simplistic, because nothing's simplistic when it comes to coding, but it makes it a little bit more agile into being able to add these chains. Like he was saying, test nets are basically different chains. And once that process is down, it definitely leads to a lot of complementary applications for having this in there with the other chains and using the same code base, and just making it a little bit less adverse, I would say.
Just for some technical background and color on this, even today, test nets are different than the main net in many cases, and that is sort of the ethos behind the test net mesh net has been people that have been burned before by testing on testnet and not mainnet, and running into, for example, on Bitcoin, you can relay any kind of transaction you want on testnet. Only the block consensus rules control whether or not the transaction is allowed. In mainnet Bitcoin, there are plenty of forms of transaction script that if they get in a block, they're perfectly valid, but that miners will not relay because they don't conform to a particular definition of standard transactions. And if you test on testnet and everything works fine, and then you deploy to prod and it doesn't work, for example, that can be a problem. Gas limits, like block gas limits, can be different on testnets, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of the previous methods for supporting the testnet testing was to essentially put in a big global flag somewhere that says, is BTC testnet today or not, right? Well, the problem with that is that you assume that everything is exactly the same between the two chains, except where you're sending all the signatures to. It'll be a lot more extensible and robust and just a better product now that we're considering things as test nets as separate chains, because that's what they are. Anyway, just a bit of technical color.
No, thank you for that, Mr. Nerd. I was actually, before you run away, too. Wasn't that one of the issues that happened early on with Thor and ETH? That was a really big one. Didn't they have some assumptions about testnet stuff that didn't work? And
they ran into that in well, I don't know if it's day one, but at least week one. They ran into the problem that they had set up the Thorchain testnet connecting to the ETH testnet, and all their stuff worked fine. But then when they flipped all the switches, it turns out that none of the things that the Asgard vaults were broadcasting actually landed on mainnet. So Thorchain thought it was sending out funds, but the funds weren't actually getting sent out. They had to shut the thing down and restart it. This was before they'd officially announced it. Like, they had a couple-day trial period ahead of time, but it was, just an example that the testing is hard, and it's a problem that everybody struggles with. And I'm just glad we got such a good dedicated team for that here.
Yeah, me too. If we were to add testnet to HD Wallet, I feel like that's something that's all open source and could be bountied out. Is the Unchained repo and everything else that's required there? Is this all? I feel like if all the testnet stuff is open source and all of the places that we need to add it to are open source as well, maybe this is something that ops could even pursue a bounty for us. Am I mistaken in that?
It's possible. Unchained is open source. I mean, all the pieces it needs to be added to are open source. I think the concern would just be like relative priorities and bandwidth of people doing the code review. Like, I'm pretty sure it won't happen before the 18th. Because if it did, even if you had all the code right now, getting that all merged in before the 18th would distract the people that need to do the other stuff. But as far as bounties, I don't know if ops or engineering or whoever would be the best umbrella for that. But I do think that the testnet stuff could be bountied out. I also know like Kevin has done a bunch of stuff on supporting it on the Unchained side. So we should probably do a survey to figure out where we are right now and what needs to be done if we're going to turn it into a formal project, which would be cool.
Oh yeah, that sounds like an action item to come out of this meeting, which I'm in support of.
Yeah.
Action items. Definitely. I mean, I have to do things.
Definitely. Hey, Tyler. Mr. Nerd's still up here, so I'm not cutting you off at all, Mr. Nerd. I just want to shout out to the support. Oh, now he's not. The support members that have jumped in. I don't know all of you yet as much because we just started, but I see a lot of underscore SS's and obviously Crypto Meg's here representing. So I appreciate that, seeing these members, and hopefully we can get to know each other better and work very well together. That's all I want to say on that aspect of it.
Yeah, I would love to set up a meeting where maybe the next all support meeting that they have, if it's not an unreasonable hour for You Never Was and Ron, we should definitely see if we can sneak you guys in to say what's up and hello. Because who we got in here? Migs, Ace, and Rain. We got some great support agents here. Some is that like a total of almost 10 years of combined experience there between the three of them there? Something close to that. There's a lot of good work that's come out of Meg's team here. And well, it's I can't just say Meg's done a lot of work, not to discredit Meg, but Meg's team also includes Mogi and Mark and Donna and so many different people that I can't even begin to name them all that do great work. So yeah, I'd love to introduce you guys together so you can be more familiar when we interact with each other on triage tickets. Oh, there is a stage question in here I'm seeing now that Miss asked about the differences between what GK is doing and what we're doing when it comes to op stuff. And maybe I can even take it as like a bigger step back about how ops kind of has a lot of gray area issues or like not issues, requirements or responsibilities. A lot of our responsibilities have to deal with issues and bugs. And yeah, we're all gray machine people. So a lot of what ops does is we find out what hurts and we figure out what size band-aid it requires to put on it, given the circumstance of the daily priorities. And sometimes that means that we'll be involved with a specific department a little bit more hands-on, or sometimes that means that we can, when the issue or the owie heals itself all the way, we don't have the same responsibilities that we used to. And some ways of us healing those bugs can be through tickets or automation or new processes or all kinds of things. And right now we're currently helping and holding this situation in which we've developed a new process and protocol for funneling people through to support that kind of has hands in support, hands in CMODs, and hands in ops a little bit too. And I would say it's the process is evolving kind of as more people jump in to help out with it, as we get more bandwidth, and as we kind of understand how our different individual users who are need to reach out to us are communicating with us. So I don't know what that means in the long term. I like the support box that we've got going right now. I think that I really like the triage flow, and I understand that it's not for everyone, and it's a big ask to ask people to sit down for 5 minutes and go through recreation steps and troubleshooting steps before reporting. It's a lot easier to just say, "Dear sirs, Fox stole my money." So yeah, I think that there's definitely space to further develop this, and I don't have a great answer, so sorry that it was a waffle. But we help each other. We're the emoji of two people holding hands right now to try and help our users get what they need.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Tyler. I just know from past ops, in businesses and organizations, ops is always like almost like it intertwines with almost every department. It has a relation with every department. We work to support every department. We work to support the end users. We work to support products. We work to really just make sure all wheels or all cogs in the machine keep turning with the least amount of friction as possible. And we just if we need a new cog, we make sure that that cog can be replaced, in a way that doesn't cause damage to everything else. So there's it's a very broad umbrella, as Tyler was saying, and I know he was focusing on, the one little piece of it just to give an example for everyone. But if you think about any organization, if they can afford to have operations team, it's all about operations. So it's all about making sure that everything operates as you want it to, as best it can, and it effectively, and there's a lot to it. So yeah, that's that.
For all the kind love, Mr. Nerd here there too. We are kind of like glue or hole fillers, or I don't know. I like to think that like I just have is it Vegas Vacation where they're at the Hoover Dam and he keeps putting his finger in the different holes in the wall to stop all of the things. I kind of feel like that sometimes. But
If you are.
well, what we got still got a little bit of time, 12 minutes or so. We can chat about anything else, but I'm excited we got some good conversation and maybe even some action items out of this too. Anyone else got
Any questions for this ragtag crew of ops assistants?
The awkward silences are funny in on Discord.
Yeah, I'm used to them. I'm tell bad jokes during governance all the time. Or else I just feel like I'm just talking to myself, long soliloquies. There is one. There's one more member of the ops team who's not here, not represented right now. Which she's getting back from vacation and will be joining us next week again. She's out in the Philippines and um, is a lurker extraordinaire as well, and is watching everything that's going on and only commenting when she needs to. But she'll be joining us next time up on stage too, and can chat more about unsolved user problems or the process as well and what she's been up to. I'll give it a minute or two. If anyone's got any last minute questions, type in the stage chat or raise your hand and ask and hop on up. But if not, I'll bring Lo-Fi back up on stage, and you guys can all have 5 to 10 minutes back of your lives.
I would offer, only just because we're just joining the team. If anyone in the community wants to ask, anything about myself, I would definitely, you know, help and try to answer any of those questions, or anything that you might want to know regarding what I bring or what I want to bring to the ops team, or anything like that. So if that's something they want to use this time for, or whatever, it's up to you guys, the community.
Yeah, any get to know any of us on stage. I know Shifty's been becoming more and more active on these calls recently, but was quieter early on. So if you guys have any questions for Ron or for Never Was or for Shifty or myself, I'll talk more too if you want me to. Vote lo-fi for treasure marketing and distributions. That's probably the best vote I could spend. All right, guys. Well, I think that's the longest and best awkward silence that we could have to end this. So thank you all for joining us. If you got any questions for any of us team, you can feel free to reach out to us in operations public chat. And we'll answer any questions you want about us individually or the team or our process. So have a good day, everyone. Have a great weekend, and make it a good GM.
Thanks all.